Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, to those of you just checking in, I won't say this too many times, but my name's Gary Barnes. I am a practicing clinical social worker, therapist, counselor, whatever you want to call me, with some EAP experience as well. And the topic of today's presentation is going to be mindfulness. And as I said earlier, for those of you who heard me, it's chock full of information. I think it's going to be fun. I hope so. It's always a little unnerving that you can't hear me. Excuse me, that I can't hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. That I can't hear you, so I don't get any interplay with my audience. So we will be asking some polling questions along the way to make sure that at least most of you have not fallen asleep or checked out, and also to make it more interesting. And so let's go. Here we go. So our agenda today on mindfulness is we're going to define mindfulness, talk about the benefits, some simple ways to practice it because you don't need more things to do in your busy lives, and then some of the related applications of mindfulness. I should say that this topic, this is the first time I've ever done a presentation on mindfulness, even though I've used it in my clinical practice for several years. And doing the research for this and sort of immersing myself in mindfulness was a thoroughly joyful experience. I really learned more about what's out there. There's so much out there about it, and I think you're going to like this. I think it's going to be good. So here we go. So we'll start with a polling question. How often do you practice some kind of mindfulness or meditation? Not at all, every now and then, less than a week, or at least weekly. So I'm interested in who I've got out there in this way. So start voting. I see people voting. And you can be honest. Nobody's seeing your answers. So I know probably the answer you might think I'm looking for is regularly. I don't know. But that's not probably most of us. Okay, so looks like it's mostly finished. 32%. I don't. Brenda, can everybody see the answers or not?
No. Don't think
you're not sure. Okay. Well, let me tell you what you all said. So 32% of you said not at all. 47% said every now and then, and 21% of you said regularly, which to me I think is probably higher than I would have expected. Good for you, those of you who practice weekly. And most of you either are practicing it or have tried something in this vein. So you're probably aware that there's some benefits to meditation or mindfulness, or perhaps you are in a yoga class or something like that, or you start and then stop. I think that's a lot of us. We try it here and there, but we can't get into the regular habit of it. Okay, so that's good. So I think I've got my audience pretty well. And for those of you who haven't done it at all, it's totally fine. I think part of what my goal today will be would be to convince you that it might be worthwhile. So let's define mindfulness, and I'm going to come back to this definition throughout the presentation. So the awareness that arises by paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. So the components of mindfulness are paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. So three things: paying attention on purpose, present moment, no judgment, boom, you get awareness, and that's mindfulness. So mindfulness is the state of doing those three things and then the benefits that you get from it. Another maybe shorter way of saying it, non-judgmental awareness of experiences in the present moment. So anything that you do that achieves those three things, paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment, would qualify for mindfulness. So it doesn't have to be sitting in the lotus position doing 30 minutes of meditation. So yes, my goal is I will be brash and tell you I'm going to offer you some persuasive information that might sway you that this is a good thing to do. Propose small and simple ways to practice mindfulness that might fit into your life and give you some areas of your life where applying these principles might seem useful. I've got a couple of these cartoons just to make it a little more interesting and lively, so I hope you'll enjoy this. I do. I will. Here we go.
Gary, can you turn the audio up on the animation?
Sure. Oh, sure. Would it be settings?
It might be on your computer.
Oops. I think I just biffed it, sorry. Should we try that again? So
it's over to the left. There's that little right next to the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it on?
Got it.
I think it's on. You need to unmute. Yeah. There. Yeah. Go.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Is it going now? Oh, it's muted. Okay. Is that better?
I still think I can't hear it.
Is that better?
I can hear it now.
Okay.
Flexibly inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've done nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribes you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, good. So then, again, I apologize for the um, the, the blip in our technology, but hopefully you all got to see that. So there's some really useful things in that little entertaining video. The idea that mindfulness may actually become, like other things, something that is a no-brainer that we all should be doing. And then I loved that image in the car where you become pissed. And then if you're being mindful, perhaps you become aware of the sensations and then make the choice about what it is that you want to do. And I think that is exactly true of mindfulness. So what are the benefits of mindfulness meditation? And I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but these are all researched. So everything I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides has some scientific research associated with it. So it literally decreases the stress hormone cortisol. So it's been demonstrated in research to do that. So which is a stress hormone. So it lowers the physical experience of stress. Many studies, several studies at least, that show it improves academic performance and working memory. Provides protective physical benefits. So there's a study that it improves recovery from cancer, lessen pain. There's lots about pain, helping with pain, reducing symptoms of colds, and other studies about physical benefits. Seems to reduce medical costs, mental health benefits, lowers depression, probably lowers depression for everyone, but there were specific studies on lowering depression among pregnant women and among teens, decreasing feelings of loneliness in the elderly, improving control over processing pain and emotions, and helps us sleep better. Relationship benefits. It's been demonstrated to increase our capacity for compassion, improves our ability to manage destructive aspects of relationship conflict, and we'll talk more about that. Associated with better decisions about dating, and it's an effective strategy for weight loss. I don't know why I put that under relationship. That should have been under mental health benefits, maybe. Okay, so how does mindfulness and meditation work? I mean, why does it have so many benefits? Well, one of the things is this idea of neuroplasticity, which possibly most of you have heard about, which is, over the last 10, 20 years, scientists have become increasingly convinced and demonstrated that our brains are what they call plastic, meaning they reshape themselves based on experiences, and even the structure of the brain changes in addition to the way blood flows through your brain and the way chemicals flow through your brain, the way energy flows through. So then mindfulness becomes a way of training our brains and to manage distraction, worry, strong emotions, and other things so that we can more effectively manage our lives. And so you can see how the research then seems to reflect this. It improves our awareness and acceptance of the present and our acceptance of ourselves and others. The acceptance is an important component of change. This is something I've come to learn, frankly, in doing psychotherapy or counseling, that we think of acceptance as a passive, just I have to suck it up. But actually, acceptance of what is promotes change. So as soon as you accept the reality of what you have, whatever that is, it's not the same as liking it, but you already are beginning to make important changes. And I always go back to the serenity prayer on this, for those of you who know that, which is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that is what mindfulness helps us to do. Accept the things that aren't going to change and have the courage or the intention or the will to change the things that we want to change. Okay. So mindfulness becomes then personal power, and this is John Kabat-Zinn, who's one of the superstars in mindfulness meditation. We are distracted by wanting something other than what we have. Looking outside ourselves for meanings and answers, we are distressed by what we are missing, but mindfulness assumes that the greatest wisdom is actually inside us, so it keeps us from looking outside of us. I think that was a Indigo Girls song, the less I seek my source for some definitive, the closer I am to find, for those of you who know that song. So can anyone meditate? This is a very common question. Most of us, I find, think that we can't. We think that we suck at it. We think we're not very good at it. But what is actually required to meditate? You have to be able to breathe and concentrate. Most of us are probably able to do that. It does require energy and commitment, but it is not about emptying your mind. It's about letting the mind be as it is. And we'll talk more about, you know, some of the techniques of meditation. So based on those criteria, really, I think we could say probably anyone could meditate. But as the last bullet here says, it may be true that you won't stick with it. And that's okay. And that is many of us. We're too busy. We're having trouble prioritizing it. Plus, it's oddly hard to do because it really is about sort of doing nothing to a large extent, and we're not very good at that. Okay, so here is another cartoon. Hopefully I get the, let me see if I can get the, oh, it's not coming up. Oh, here it comes. Let me start by getting the volume. Okay, the volume looks high now, so we should be good. Okay.
Is there any way that you can turn the volume up on your computer?
It's up all the way. Yeah, I did that already.
It is. Okay. Thank you.
What you may have heard, meditation does not involve joining a group, paying any fees, wearing any special outfits, sitting in a funny position, or believing in anything in particular. It is simple, secular, scientifically validated exercise for your brain. You don't have to do it yet, but just so you know, here are the 3 steps. 1, sit, eyes closed. 2, notice the feeling of your breath and going out. Pick a spot where it's most prominent. Usually that's your nose or your chest or your belly. Just focus your full attention on the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Now, as soon as you try to do this, your mind's going to go nuts. You're going to start thinking about, what am I going to have for lunch? Why did I say that dumb thing? Your brain's going to go nuts, and that's fine. The whole game is to notice when you've gotten lost, to start over, and then to start over again, and again, and again. Every time you do that, it's like a bicep curl for your brain, and it shows up on the brain screen. Scientists have found this in the lab. It's also, by the way, a radical act. You are breaking a lifetime habit of walking around in a fog of rejection and rumination, and you're actually focusing on what's happening right now. Meditation is unlike anything you do for the rest of your life. Failure is actually success. As I said, the whole game is just trying, failing, starting again, failing, starting again. Here's my advice to you. You should be meditating every day, 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's it. This doesn't require some giant investment. I don't care how busy you are. You have 5 to 10 minutes to give this a shot. I guarantee you it will make a big difference.
So I like that video because it makes it, you know, very simple and doable. 5 minutes. I also love the start, fail, try again, start, fail, try again, because that is what meditation is. So let's go on here. I seem to be stuck. Here we go. Okay, so here are some other simple mindfulness practices. You can do mindfulness doing daily routines, for example, such as, so you could pick an activity like brushing your teeth, shaving, making your bed, or taking a shower. And this is, I'll read to you what the morning routine mindfulness practice could be. When you do it, totally focus your attention on what you're doing, the body movements, the taste, the touch, the smell, the sight, the sound, and so on. Notice what's happening with an attitude of openness and curiosity. And so similarly, when you're doing domestic chores, pick an activity like ironing clothes, washing dishes, vacuuming floors, something mundane that you have to do. For example, ironing clothes, notice the color and shape of the clothing, the pattern made by the creases, and the new pattern as the creases disappear. So you get that, the idea of what these things are. So while doing pleasant activities, pick an activity you enjoy. Eating lunch, stroking the cat, playing with the dog, really anything. So remember, if we go back to the definition of mindfulness, it requires three things: paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judging. So if you think of it that way, you can do it in daily activities. There is walking meditation, standing meditation. A walking meditation would be, for example, going through the woods or around the block, and again, paying attention on purpose in the present moment, maybe to how your body's doing as you're walking, or maybe the focusing on the things around you. A standing meditation might be standing in the forest or in some beautiful place by the ocean. If you do yoga, you can get into a pose that you like, and then spend time paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judging. There are guided meditations too, which I find very helpful. And I gave you one source here. Tara Brach has free guided meditations if you go to tarabrach.com. And she's another mindfulness meditation famous person. She has meditations and also lectures on her website and lots of other really good information. Chronic pain. Many of you, I am guessing, probably have some kind of chronic pain or ongoing pain or have had a medical problem. So this is one of the places where mindfulness became really popular. John Kabat-Zinn created something called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And sort of like if you know that there's research on cognitive behavioral therapy, in the mindfulness world, mindfulness-based stress reduction is a established routine program, and because of that they were able to measure the benefits of it, and so it's been demonstrated to have all kinds of benefits for people. And it was first used by Kabat-Zinn in a hospital setting with people in pain. It's now been expanded and is used in other settings as well. And it combines mindfulness practice and yoga, and it's a group-based experience. And by the way, if you are having trouble getting motivated to do mindfulness or meditation, a group meditation is a good way to get started, because you'll come in, sit down, and you probably won't want to leave. Whereas if you're trying to practice on your own, you may just give up and go away. And depending on where you live, there could very well be meditation groups for free or low cost. I know in my area we have them through the senior center, and there's a Quaker organization that does a weekly meditation class or group. Okay, so chronic pain, there's this idea of primary versus secondary pain. So primary pain is considered the pain itself, and then secondary pain is the pain you have about feeling pain. And mindfulness-based stress reduction has been demonstrated to sort of turn the volume down on that secondary pain. And so the goal is acceptance. But there are other benefits of meditation for pain. And I have some references at the end of this presentation, an excellent audio book, I guess, but it's really, I call it an audio book, full of guided meditations for pain, and it's called Freedom from Pain. So if you have that issue, I would strongly encourage you to check that out. The meditations are designed to help you, like, move the pain around in your body, or dilute it by spreading it out around your body. All kinds of very interesting techniques for helping you with pain. Okay, we can't get through a mindfulness training without doing at least one exercise, right? So if you can, if you're sitting, you can do this. If you're standing, you don't have a choice but to do this. So let's spend just a couple of minutes and do this drop anchor exercise. And this is to demonstrate to you that this is something you can do at your desk. Plant your feet into the floor. So push your feet down into the floor. And I'm doing it as well, and I'm noticing that when I push my feet into the floor, I sort of come up out of my seat. So plant your feet into the floor as best you can, and notice the floor below you supporting you. And then notice the muscle tension in your legs as you push your feet down. And now notice your entire body and the feeling of gravity flowing down through your head, spine, legs, and into your feet. And now look around and notice what you can see and hear around you. Notice with an open mind where you are and what you are doing. Look at the things on your desk. Look at your computer screen. Look at the edges of your computer screen. Whatever you've got in front of you. I have a lamp, I have papers, I have a coffee mug. So what I didn't do, because this is we don't have very much time, is before you do this, it's always helpful with any meditative practice to take a few deep breaths. And so I would encourage you to start by sitting in your chair in a comfortable position, but sort of an alert position, or standing, and start by taking a few deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out, and just notice yourself doing that, and then engage in the exercise. So this is just one of many mindfulness exercises you can do. Okay, now we're going to watch another video. I hope these are working now for everybody.
A few people are still having trouble with sound, and I'm wondering if it might help to hold your mic a little closer to your speakers, or wherever the volume is coming out on your computer.
Yeah, I have a headset with speakers, and okay.
Just a thought.
There's a story
I don't know what else to do.
attributed to the Native American tradition, which illuminates different ways of paying attention. An elder, talking to a child, says, "I have two wolves fighting in my heart. One wolf is fearful, vengeful, envious, resentful, and deceitful. The other wolf is compassionate, loving, generous, truthful, and peaceful." The child asks, "Which wolf will win the fight?" The elder responds, "The one I feed." That doesn't mean we try to deny or hurt or kill the angry wolf. If we did that, we'd end up in a long battle, all the while somehow making that wolf more powerful through our hostility and fear. Hating that wolf sucks the strength right out of us. Instead, we calmly pay attention to the angry wolf and let go of believing they have the answers. If we can do that, they end up lying down next to us, no longer an enemy. We help strengthen the kind and loving wolf, giving it nourishment and support so that we can follow it. That peaceful wolf can become our steady companion and show us the way through all kinds of different life experiences. Restful or chaotic, enjoyable or disappointing experiences may come and go, but we can have a guide with us through it all. This is what mindfulness can help you do. Mindfulness allows us to see our thoughts and feelings as they are beginning. It's very powerful to know what we're feeling as we're feeling it, know what we're thinking as we're thinking it. With mindfulness, we can choose what will strengthen and bring into action, and we can choose what we will gently let go of. We don't have to be at the mercy of old habits or old ways of thinking or old ways of being. We are empowered. It just takes practice.
Somebody asked for the URL on this, and you can see that if you go to Happify, you can get these and many, many more of these cartoons and other resources. Some of them are, you can see, listed here. I love that video, and I love that story about the two wolves and which one wins, and it's the one that you feed. And I put this in right before we talk about relationship, because, hang on a second, because I think it is particularly appropriate and helpful when we're having relationship conflicts to think about. So it's the idea of mindfulness is noticing the emotions that you're feeling without judgment, without trying to, as she pointed out, without trying to suppress it or push it down or force it to go away, because that makes those negative emotions stronger. But instead to recognize that they're there, but to choose instead a path that is more compassionate and loving. So that's my la-la land of how I would like us all to be. Okay, there's an acronym you can use called R.A.I.N, and this is to help you if you're having a distressing event. So R.A.I.N, the R stands for recognize what is happening, and I'm borrowing this from Tara Brach, although she's not the only one that that talks about it, and I don't think she created the acronym. She says recognition, recognize what is happening. Recognition is seeing what is true in your inner life. It starts the minute you focus your attention on whatever thoughts, emotions, feelings, or sensations are arising right here and now. As your attention settles and opens, you will discover that some parts of your experience are easier to connect with than others. For example, you might recognize anxiety right away, but if you focus on your worried thoughts, you might not notice the actual sensations of squeezing, pressure, or tightness arising in the body. So it can be helpful to ask yourself, what thoughts am I having? What sensations am I having? What feelings am I having? Okay, the second part of this, the A, is, let's see, I have a cursor here, allowing life to be just as it is. Allowing means letting be the thoughts, emotions, feelings, or sensations you discover. Easier said than done, right? You may feel a natural sense of aversion, of wishing that unpleasant feelings would go away, but as you become more willing to be present with what is, a different quality of attention will emerge. The I is investigate with kindness. At times, simply working through the first two steps is enough to provide relief and reconnect you with presence. In other cases, however, the intention to recognize and allow is not enough. So this means calling on your natural instinct, the desire to know truth, and directing a more focused attention to your present experience. Non-identification then, and you know, I thought this was a little an unusual phrase, non-identification, but essentially it's about the non-judgment piece of mindfulness. So it's the, Tara Brach says, it's the lucid, open, and kind presence evoked in this process, the realization of what she calls natural awareness or natural presence. It means your sense of who you are isn't fused or defined by any limited set of emotions, sensations, or stories. So there you go. So here's another polling question. So far, are there any of these three things that you would be interested in pursuing further? A 5-minute breathing meditation, perhaps a guided meditation, or mindfulness during daily activities? I'm wondering which of these is more likely to appeal to you all. So the poll is open. And I know it's a forced choice. I apologize for that. Some of you might like to try all three. But which is the one you think you might be more likely to practice? Okay. So 60% said, 59%, mindfulness during daily activities. 49% said they'd be interested in trying a 5-minute breathing meditation, and 30% said a guided meditation would be helpful. So that tells me what I think is true for me and for many of us, which is finding a way to do it while doing other things is appealing to us. And really nice to see that almost 50% of you have a willingness to try a 5-minute breathing meditation. Oh, I see that that you didn't have a forced choice because it adds up to more than 100%. So you must have been able to choose more than one of those. That's good. Okay. So, relationship conflict. This is one of my favorites because I see a lot of couples, and I use this method a lot. With varying degrees of success, I must say, because relationship conflict causes so much strong emotion that it's hard to do this. But this first slide is the most important. So when you're in a conflict or feeling angry or upset with your partner or your child or your parent or a coworker, stop, breathe, and say these 4 things to yourself. If I were you, I'd take these 4 things, write them down, and put them somewhere. I can afford to slow down and try to relax. I've got some time to figure out how to handle this situation. I'm not going to just let it go without saying something. If I can get calmer, I'll be more powerful. So I think a lot of what keeps us from stopping and thinking about what we want to say is the idea that, I'm not going to let you get away with that. You said something hurtful, and I'm mad about that, or I'm hurt, and I want you to know that. Well, what these 4 statements, if you say them to yourself, what they tell you or remind you, which I believe you know, I don't think anyone would disagree that the 4 things I've written on this slide are true. It tries to remind you that you can still deal with the situation. You could say whatever you want. You just don't have to say it right now. So I think this third one, I'm not going to just let it go without saying something, is very important. Now, it may be that you do decide after you get calmer that not saying something is the correct action. Okay. So I'm going to go through these quickly. Assume a first things first attitude. Pay attention to the physical sensations that you're having, and essentially go into a mindfulness or meditative exercise. Breathe and do, maybe some of you can say it out loud with me. What is mindfulness? Paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So that's what you're going to do here. As thoughts pop up, you acknowledge them, bring your attention back to your physical sensations, like your breathing is a good way to do this. And if necessary, engage in an activity that requires your full attention if you're still not calming down. Now, John Gottman, one of the marital experts, says it takes about 30 minutes to calm down physically if you're in a marital argument. It can be a little less or a little more depending on who you are. And then, after you've done all that, after you're calmer, then you can give some thought how to handle the situation. And if you saw my webinar last month, you'll understand that what I focus on is what's the story that you're telling in your head about you and the other person, and how can you retell that story in a more compassionate, alternative way, maybe that has less direct to do with you, a way of detaching a little bit to see that the other person is who they are. All right, I'm moving on because we're going to run out of time, and this is great stuff, self-compassion. So self-compassion is another way of thinking about mindfulness. So self-compassion entails being warm and understanding. Hang on, let me get my mouse over. So this is Kristin Neff, and you're going to see a clip of Kristin Neff in a second. She is a researcher, powerhouse, who researches self-compassion. And she has a website. I believe it's self-compassion.org. You could take a self-compassion test to see how self-compassionate you are, and you can watch her do videos, one of which I'm going to show you in a second. So self-kindness is step one, being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than ignoring our pain or flagellating ourselves with self-criticism. So she says self-compassion really is best understood by thinking about being compassionate to others. So we are as caring toward ourselves as we are toward others. Secondly, then, recognize our common humanity of a shared human experience. The frustration of not having things exactly as we wanted is often accompanied by an irrational but pervasive sense of isolation, as if I were the only person suffering or making mistakes. All humans suffer, however. The very definition of being human means that one is mortal, vulnerable, and imperfect. Therefore, self-compassion involves recognizing that suffering and personal inadequacy is part of the shared human experience. And then the third one is mindfulness, being open to the reality of the present moment and acknowledging our suffering without exaggerating it or trying to squash it down. Okay, so let's watch Kristin. And like I said, on her website, self-compassion.org, you can watch lots of these. Make sure the volume is where we want it. It appears to be. 2-minute tip. I can't hear her. Hang on.
It's really not remember self.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
First thing is just to give yourself permission to treat yourself kindly. A lot of people think that it's selfish or that it's all self-pity. Really not. Remember, self-compassion recognizes the shared human condition. It's not, woe is me. For me, it's life is difficult for everyone. So, and again, because it helps you give more to others, it's not selfish. So giving yourself permission to be kind, knowing that it's going to help you be happy, it's going to help others be happy. Then concrete things like noticing how you speak to yourself, asking, would I say this to a close friend? Usually not. But would I say to a close friend? Can I try treating myself that way? You can do this in letter writing. It's very effective. If you're really struggling, write yourself a letter in the same way that you would, again, what you would express to a good friend in the same situation, but write that to yourself. And then you can go back and read it. That's helpful. Probably one of the most helpful things, though, because we're mammals, we are programmed evolutionarily to respond to warmth, physical warmth, soothing touch, and gentle vocalization. As mammals, when we, just like think of a mommy lion and her cub, we're programmed for our bodies to calm down and to feel safe and to feel soothed. So one of the most effective ways to give yourself compassion is through some physical gesture, because you're actually tapping into that mammalian caregiving system at a physiological level. So finding some touch that feels comfortable. A really common one might be to put both hands over your heart, or maybe on your belly, or middle of your cheeks, or do something like this. Some people just holding their hand. That can let your body know that you care. And then sometimes it's easier for your mind to follow after your body has calmed down a little.
So I don't know how that appears to some of you. Some of you might think that it's a little too touchy-feely for you, but this is really important stuff. And like I said, she's a researcher, and if you open yourself to this idea of self-compassion and some of the practices that she talks about, I think, in my experience, people are generally too judgmental of themselves, and this is very much an issue. So we're running out of time, of course. Here are some other tools for mindfulness. So I'm big on values clarification, and you can, I have the whole reference here. You can download the Life Compass exercise from the Happiness Trap, www.thehappinesstrap.com, which is gives you several areas of your life, and it helps you to write in and determine, for example, with relationship or with your spirituality or with your parenting. It's got a bunch of boxes, and you get to write in there what's important to you about each of those areas, and then consider how much energy, how important it is to you, and how much energy you're putting into it. So I'd really encourage you to do that. It helps you develop what I call intention, so that you're directing your energy in a way that you want to. And gratitude practice is another one that perhaps you've heard of, and I found this amazing slide. Let me go back. This is, oops, sorry, I went the wrong direction. This happierhuman.com, Amit Amin is the gentleman who put this awesome graph together. Look at this, the benefits of gratitude. And this is a researched thing. Gratitude is researched as being one of the most beneficial things for happiness. So in terms of a happiness exercise, you can do a gratitude practice. I won't have enough time to go into it today, but his suggestion is for 21 days in a row, record things you're grateful for and why. Usually 3 to 5 things. They should be different each day, and they should be specific. And if you can say things that you had something to do with, you even get more of a bonus. So look that up, and I'd encourage you to think about gratitude as a practice. Okay, final polling question. We're only a couple minutes late. Which of these are you most willing and likely to try in the next week? See how I'm nailing you down? See how I'm manipulating you to commit to doing something? I know I didn't give you enough teeth on the gratitude exercise because I ran out of time. But gratitude is so important. Okay. So I'm getting people interested in stuff. 61% are motivated to try one of the meditation ideas, 53% to try the gratitude exercise, and 38% are interested in reading or watching more on self-compassion. Good. I hope, and so now if you look, I have, so we're going to answer questions. So now would be a time to ask questions if you have any, and Brenda's going to read them to me. We've got about 7 minutes. But look at all these resources. So these are just some of them. John Kabat-Zinn, he also wrote Full Catastrophe Living and other books. He's very good. Russ Harris is one of my absolute favorites. He doesn't write specifically about mindfulness. He uses an approach called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, of which mindfulness is one of the components. Really good stuff. Tara Brach is a superstar. Kristin Neff, Thich Nhat Hanh, Peace in Every Step is just one. He's written like 100 books at least, and all of them are inspiring in different ways. And then I gave you other people to check out. All these people are on the internet somewhere, and all have books and meditations and audio CDs, etc., etc. So I hope you'll check some of those out. I wanted to make sure to give those to you. Okay, how about questions? Brenda, will you have any?
Yeah, it looks like we don't have any questions at this time. Yeah.
Oh, is that because people are practicing being in the moment, paying attention on purpose to the present moment in a non-judging way? Okay. Wow. This is the first time we haven't had any questions. All right, so will we send out the slides? What's the answer to that question?
We will definitely email out the slides following the webinar, and we'll also archive it on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there.
Oh, okay, great. Including the stumbles, huh? We're not going to edit out the stumbles. So if you want to watch Gary being imperfect, yeah. If you want to watch me being imperfect, that's good. So, okay. I have trouble seeing the questions, as you know. I see comments, but have you seen any questions?
I do no questions. No?
Okay. All right, then I guess we're going to end 4 minutes early. So thank you all for coming. I hope that there was at least one thing that was helpful in this presentation, and I hope you'll at least try one of these things sometime over the next week. And anytime you try it, it's going to be helpful. And I think the key to mindfulness is the part about failing, that we all have what we call the default state of a lot of thinking in our heads, and so when you try to be mindful, you become aware of that. So don't despair. Okay, thank you all, and I hope you have a pleasant rest of your week.